All right. We good? We live? All right. Awesome. Welcome, guys, to a impromptu live. I would say impromptu, meaning I did not know I was going to do this one this week. Normally, we have a plan out ahead of time, but I was like, you know what? I really want to teach on this TSC model. This is something that I'm going to be unpacking for our marriage, Save the Marriage boot camp guys starting next week. So if you are interested in jumping into that boot camp, just click one below or type boot camp below, and I will reach out and connect with you about that. But I'm going to be unpacking something that I call the TSC model. And up until now, honestly, I've only really shared this. I'm pretty sure I've only really shared this with clients in our Thrive program specifically. And somebody even asked me this the other day. They said, "Gosh, I thought you were more focused on save the man versus save the marriage." And it's like, honestly, I am. We are about saving the man over the marriage. But we found also is that there's a contingency of guys that really just want the tactical execution. They just want the tactical fundamentals of like what should they be doing? How can they actually save the marriage? And we've saved hundreds of marriages in our Thrive program, but those guys are there to do deeper work. And not everyone wants to do that. Not everyone needs to do that. And so what we found was that hey, there is a group of men who really just want the tools and the techniques that we teach there, but maybe not have to do as much of the deeper work and maybe not want to make as much of a time and commitment and financial commitment, et cetera. So I'm going to be talking about this thing I call the TSC model. And that's sort of the name I came up with, if you will, right? I don't know if that's like a special name like that we're going to use in all of our marketing, but it's definitely a name that I think will make sense as I unpack this for you. Now, if you are watching this live and you have questions about it, please just drop a comment there. I've got my team looking out for those comments in the chat. Drop a question there if you have a question about as I'm unpacking each of these things. And as we do that, I'll try to answer those questions for you. So let's go ahead and get started in this. So really this model came from several years ago when I was first teaching a lot of this work to guys. And even after having gone through my own separation and divorce, and my ex-wife and I had been through multiple iterations of separations and things of that nature. And what I found was that really that a lot of guys, when it's kind of like this, you come into a situation where your wife says, I don't want to be married anymore. I want a divorce. I want to whatever. And our immediate reaction, it's like a knee-jerk reaction. Okay, I got to fix it. I got to fix it. I got to figure out what to do. I don't know what to do. I don't know where to go. I'm lost. I got to fix it. And so we get on the internet and we scour the YouTubes and we scour Facebook and we scour Instagram and we look for solutions. We go to the bookstores or we talk to our pastor, our brothers, our counselors, our friends, right? Like we're scouring the world to try to find an answer to this problem. The problem is oftentimes you're actually trying to solve the wrong problem. And what I mean by that is that ultimately you can only control what you can control. You cannot control your wife. And so any attempt to try to save the marriage that doesn't come from a place of love, that is coming more from a place of what I would say manipulation, it's ultimately going to backfire you. Now, this is part of the reason why for years we have always steered clear of this type of language, this type of messaging, is because most of the programs out there that are focused on saving the marriage are really just focused on how to manipulate your wife back into the marriage. Now, personally, I tried that and I did that many times. I used ultimatums, I used sex, I used finances, I used all kinds of things to manipulate her to control the situation so that she would come back. I remember even throwing the whole covenant, the whole marriage covenant in her face, and saying, "What about that?" And it was because it was all coming from a place of insecurity, shame, anger, heartbreak, right? So it's like, dude, it's okay that you feel that way. Like the fact of the matter is that you feel that way is okay. Now, it's what we do with it is going to separate whether or not you actually can save your marriage to create a new marriage or you end up in divorce. Okay. Now, this is not for every man. There are some guys where literally your wife has moved on completely, and this may not help. Just being honest. I'm not going to sugarcoat it and tell you, hey, this is going to work for every situation. It doesn't. It doesn't work for every situation, and that is because we were talking about humans, right? What this will do though is it will work for you. And here's what I mean is if your outcome that you're looking for is to save your marriage, you can set that as your sort of your priority. It's not really a goal because it's something that's fluid, so it's not something you can actually attain. But like if your goal is to stop the divorce from happening, let's just say, and like if I can at least do that, then it buys me time and whatever. So what most guys do is they try to be like nice, they try to buy flowers, they just like try to calm everything down, and that's fine. But ultimately, it disempowers you in the process. And so what we found was there's sort of a happy medium between doing this, where it's kind of like somebody who wants to lose weight and they go to the gym and they build muscle so that they can lose weight. So a lot of you, what you're trying to do is like, well, I'm just not going to build muscle. I'm just going to like not eat anything. I'm going to starve myself, and and by starving myself, then I'll have lost this weight. Okay, great. But ultimately, if you don't have muscle to replace it, you'll just get fat again. And so what we want to do is use the muscle to replace the fat. Same thing here. What you don't want to do is use these sort of tactics and these things that I teach as a way to manipulate, just like as if you're not going to the gym and getting powerful, you're going to do the same thing. And so what we want to do is get powerful by going to the gym, emotional gym, getting powerful, lifting those weights, and at the same time exercising right, which means utilizing the tools. So I'm empowered and I'm utilizing the tools to show her that I've changed, et cetera, et cetera. And I've done it together. So it's a powerful symbiotic relationship. What most of you do is just starve yourself and try to lose weight, but then you gain the weight back. Why do you gain the weight back? Because you haven't created a new system. You haven't created a new flow. And ultimately, what she's not looking for is she just doesn't want to see changes. And then as soon as she comes back, you go back to doing the old thing. That has happened how many times, right? You can put a one below if that's been you, where you've made changes. And then what? She sees the changes, she comes back, and then 6 months later, you're back doing the same crap you were doing before. So that's not what we want to do. What we want to do is set you up for success. We want to help you get to the place where you're like, I'm empowered. And at the same time, I'm putting myself in a position so that she sees changes, feels changes, understands the changes, sees that this isn't about her, but about me. And then ultimately, she wants to lean back into the marriage. That is the overall flow of what we've seen that has worked tremendously. So the Thrive clients, and I don't even know how many because we don't keep track of saved marriages, but of the guys who have saved their marriage, that is the flow, that is the pathway for what has happened. So essentially, the guy gets empowered, so he gets his strength back. And in doing so, she sees that strength, sees that power, and says, oh my gosh, he's a leader. And then we equip him with the tools for communication and ownership and leadership so that he can then lead the marriage again to its rightful place and where it needs to be. Because ultimately, a lot of you, the reason you're not saving your marriage is because you don't know how to fucking lead her. Like you just don't. You don't know how to lead your wife. You don't know how to own your shit. And you definitely don't know how to communicate. Now, a lot of you will say, oh, I own my shit. I apologize. Dude, that's not ownership. Ownership is much deeper than that. Ownership is about setting a new standard. It's not about just saying sorry for something you did wrong. Okay. Ownership is a lifestyle. It is a lifestyle. So when we teach this, we're teaching it to men who want to be empowered because they've recognized their need for empowerment. They've recognized, just like this guy I was talking to yesterday, he was coming into our Thrive program now because he recognized he had been disempowered. He had not lived a life of integrity. He had basically been living like a little boy in his marriage. And so now it was time for him to become a real man, an empowered man. So this model I'm about to teach you is not meant for the purpose of manipulating your wife. It's meant for you to grow your emotional muscles, to get powerful, and at the same time, get rid of or strip away the things that were stopping you from ultimately saving your marriage. So this applies to every guy in the sense of it's going to help you save yourself. But yes, we want saved marriages as well. And that's why we're doing this. That's why we're teaching this. So TSC model. So to sort of preface this more, here's the first thing that I want you to think about, right? So I'm going to kind of list for you guys, and I'm going to try to write on this whiteboard here. This is the first time ever doing this thing. Is this word control? Oh, control. We focus on what we can control, right? That is the biggest thing here. If we can't control it, we shouldn't be trying to control it. Okay. So what that means essentially is that if our and this is not working on there, so apparently you guys don't see it. If our wife is a person, she has her own person, we can't control her. The only thing we can do is focus on what we can control. And what can we control? This guy right here. So the very first thing I want you to think about in this framework is that you cannot control her, you can only control you. So that means you can't tell her what she can or cannot do. You can set boundaries for yourself. Hey, I'm not okay with this thing happening. And therefore, if you do that, here's how I'm going to respond. Not if you do this, I'm going to do this to you. That's tit for tat. That's control. That's not boundaries. That's the first thing. We focus on what we can control. The second thing, we make changes for us, not her. This is the key, guys. Why? Because she doesn't care about your changes unless they actually matter for you. Now, a lot of you probably could comment on this ad nauseum, have probably had your wife say to you, I'm so glad you're finally making those changes for yourself. And they still don't want to lean back in the marriage. That's because she's lost that emotional connection with you, that she's put up a boundary or a wall to keep you from, because she can't trust you. So what ultimately has to happen is you have to build trust over a long period of time. Trust cannot be just something that just comes about, for today or 3 months. She wants trust forever. She doesn't want trust just for the next few days. She wants to feel like, hey, I can trust this guy forever. And that's what we want to build into this model. So number one thing is we focus on what we can control. Number two, we make changes for us, not her. And number three, we don't brag about the changes, but let her see them. We don't brag about the changes, but we let her see them. So many guys come to me and they're like, well, should I tell my wife I'm working on myself? How can I show her? She only sees me at pickup and all these things. And I'm like, look, man, at the end of the day, rule number one is we can't control her. So we can't control what she sees or doesn't see. Because here's the thing, here's the truth. She has to want to see it. She has to want to see it. And if she doesn't want to see it, it doesn't matter what manipulative thing you do. It doesn't matter what trick, some tip, some thing that some coach teaches you to do. It doesn't matter, because she's not going to want to see it. And if she doesn't want to see it, she ain't going to fucking see it. So let's be real here, right? Now, unless you're like literally trying to do these like grand gestures and just like overwhelming her, like what's called love bombing. Okay. If you're doing love bombing, you're still manipulating her. You're still codependent on her, and it's making her feel suffocated. What a lot of women, I've talked to many women about this in the past, every time I go somewhere, like, oh, what do you do for work? Oh, I help men going through separation, divorce, get their power back. Oh, wow. I could have used, my ex-husband could have used that. Or, oh, my ex-boyfriend could have used that. And we'll talk about it. And they're like, yeah, we had this conversation. I wanted to break up with them, or I wanted to divorce. And they, all of a sudden they started making these changes. And it just felt like a day late and a dollar short. It just felt like, really? Now you're going to make changes? Because what? I finally got mad enough at you and to tell you I'm leaving you. So now you want to do something about it? It's obnoxious. It's absolutely fucking obnoxious to women when we do that. So that's why I created this model. That's the framework, the sort of first three things there. Focus on what we can control, make changes for us, not her. We don't brag about the changes, but we let her see them. Hopefully that's clear. Now I'm going to get into the actual TSC part. So the very first thing that we have to do is focus on one thing, and that is right here at the bottom of this. It's called consistency. 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 It's a weird word to say, but being consistent is the thing that you need to have, right? Consistency. I'm trying to write this in, and it's going to be funny. By being consistent and showing up at the gym every day, you get more muscles. By being consistent with the work you do, you will have more success. If you don't have consistency, if you don't lean on consistency, what are you going to have? You're going to have a jumbled mess, right? It's kind of like if somebody today starts something and then 3 days from now says, you know what, fuck it, I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm going to try something else. And then 6 years later, or 6 days later, they're doing something else. Anybody ever seen somebody who just yo-yo diets, right? Like, what do? They're consistent in their inconsistency. I've had team members like that. where it's like, man, you are just consistently inconsistent. Like you can't be consistent with one fucking thing. Why is that? Because you lack consistency inside of you. So the very first foundational thing you have to do if you're going to save your marriage is you have to be consistent in whatever method or whatever thing that you choose to do. You have to be. So consistency is fucking key to saving your marriage. Consistency, consistency. Why is that? Because consistency builds trust. Think about when you go to Starbucks or McDonald's or whatever, there is a consistency of the food or the coffee, whether it's shit because McDonald's is garbage, or Starbucks, their coffee is like, not as good as it used to be. But there is a consistency to it no matter where you go all over America. I can have a Big Mac in Florida and have a Big Mac in California. It's going to taste exactly the same. I can have a cup of Pike Place coffee in Seattle. I've been to the home of Starbucks there, the very first store across from the fish market there. I can have a cup of Starbucks there, or I can have a cup of Starbucks in Connecticut. I can have a cup of Starbucks in Texas, California. I've had it in 30 states or something. And it tastes the exact same. What does that do to a buyer? It teaches them consistency that, hey, no matter where you go and you see our brand, you're going to know this is what it's going to taste like. This is what it's going to be like. And so your wife is craving consistency from you. What you have been is consistently an asshole or consistently inconsistent with her, and she can't trust you. So you have to go from being consistent in your inconsistency to consistent in your consistency. It's kind of like a weird way of saying that. But that's what it takes, is having consistency. All right, the second part of the model. And this is a tough one for a lot of you, space. 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 That means is we give her space. We give her space. We allow her the opportunity and the time to have space to herself. There is nothing like somebody who says, please get away from me, please back up, and that person invading your space. There is nothing like that that is more just irritating, aggravating. I mean, how many of you had brothers growing up or a sister growing up or somebody, and they just were like, nah, just nagging you and wouldn't get out of your face. And you're like, dude, just give me some space. That's what your wife is asking for. When she says, I don't want to be in this marriage, or I don't love you anymore, she's emotionally saying, I need space. That's why some of you are like, you're so confused. You're like, she says I'm clinging to her, or I'm doing this. And it's like, yeah, because you're still saying I love you. You're still trying to buy her flowers. You're still trying to take her on dates. You're still trying to have sex with her. You're still trying to do all these things, and you're not respecting her boundaries. We teach a concept in Thrive called neutral woman. Neutral woman works especially for women that are a little bit more on the toxic side, especially if they're having an affair, things like that. But it's the idea that you give her space and not treat her like she's still your wife, but treat her like she's just a woman you met at a grocery store. The reason for that is because it creates a vacuum emotionally so that she can now do what? Lean back in. There it is. So we start with consistency at the bottom, where we go after, we create a plan. You work with somebody like us, where we coach you through how to do these things, and you become consistent in the methodology. And as you're consistent in that, you then give her space. And the space that you give her is not so that she can go do her thing, but at the end of the day, if she wants to go and choose to do her thing, you're giving that to her because of what? You can't control what she does. You can tell her, hey, it's not okay for this to happen. And if you're going to do this, I'm going to remove myself, or I'm going to do this, or I'm going to ask you not to be in the home, or whatever. You know, you have a cheating wife, it becomes a real hard thing, right? Because you have to put up some real hard boundaries. Like, I'm not going to treat you like my wife if you are going to be sleeping with somebody else. And I'm going to ask you to sleep on the couch. I'm going to stay in my bed, but I think you need to sleep on the couch. Kick her ass to the curb. Let her know, hey, this is what has to happen. Now, some of you going, but how does that save the marriage? How does that? Because it defines boundaries. And what women are lacking in men like you is fucking boundaries and leadership. What woman wants to be with a cuck? Like, let's just be honest. What woman wants to really be with a cuck? A guy who just lets her fuck anybody else that she wants. Is it healthy? Is it functional? Uh, for thousands of years of history, it's no, it's not. Um, we live in an age in society though where people don't know how to deal with their trauma, and that's what they do with it. Um, but I would suggest and I would say that if that's what your wife wants to do, you've got to put up some boundaries and you've got to give her space so you can give yourself space. Because here's the thing, guys, this TSC model is not just about her, it's about you. And I'm going to get to that in a second. So the foundation is we choose a plan, we pick a plan, tactics, and we execute with consistency, and then we build space into that. So we give her space and we give ourselves space. Give her space to figure out what she wants, to let her see the consistency in you, right? If you back off and you let her move out, you let her do the things that she's doing, let her do it. And I'm not saying you be okay with it. What I'm saying is you don't try to control it. Let me make sure I'm clear here, because some of you might think what I'm talking about is let her cheat on you and let her be okay with it. I'm not saying that at all. What I'm saying is if she's going to choose to do that, you don't try to control or manipulate it. You let her know, hey, I'm not okay with you doing this, but if you're going to do it, I'd prefer that you not do it in the house, or I'd prefer that you do it somewhere else, and I'm going to focus on me. What that does is it allows her to figure out her shit. It allows her to do whatever it is she's got to do. And then hopefully she sees the consistency and sees the space. And over time, that's the third part, she makes a conscious decision to come back to the marriage. We have a process we call come back to the marriage and what that looks like for the things that she needs to do for you guys to be healthy together. And in doing so, you've now given yourself the opportunity to save your marriage. So I'll back this up a little bit. What we want to do is build consistency into the bottom. We want to choose a plan, choose a path of how we're going to do that. It's not just giving them time, space, and consistency. It's what are the tactics? What are the things I'm going to work on? What are the things I'm going to do so that she will eventually see those changes? But starts with me owning my shit, starts with me wanting to make changes for myself. And then her seeing those changes, putting me in a position to powerfully show her that I have changed without telling her, without bragging about it, without trying to control her, and allowing her to see over time with space that I want to be a new husband and I want to create a new marriage with you. That is the TSC model: time, space, consistency. And we have seen this countless times over and over and over again of when a man is consistent in what he does, he backs off and gives his wife space, and he allows time to take to do its thing. That is the key to saving your marriage. My current wife and I, Amy, we did a podcast, I think it was a year or two ago. You guys could go look it up in the Empowered AF podcast. And in there, she talks about if her husband would have done these things, she possibly, it would a good chance he could have saved his marriage. But he didn't. He wasn't consistent in anything. He didn't choose a path. He didn't go work on himself. He didn't do nothing. He did nothing. He didn't give her any space. In fact, he violated her space many times. And he sure as hell didn't give her any time. And so what she said on that podcast was that if he would have been consistently like working on himself and wanting to become a better human and giving her the space that she needs, she wasn't cheating on him. There was no affairs, nothing like that, but she needed some space, emotional space. I'm not talking about never necessarily physically moving out, and then giving her the time she needed to see that he's making those changes consistently, that this isn't just something he's doing, but to radically see the transformation that's happening inside of him. That would have saved her marriage. It doesn't mean you could, that it's all going to be perfect at that point, but it would stop the divorce. It would stop those things. And now you're in a position to create a new marriage. So that's why I have launched the 30-day or the 4-week marriage save your marriage boot camp. I've been playing with different names for it. We're going to unpack over 4 weeks these things that we're talking about. We're going to unpack the TSC model, help you create that emotional vacuum that that makes her want to lean back into the marriage. I'm going to help you specifically do that for you in your situation. I'm going to help you get her to communicate with you again, even if she doesn't want to. There's tips, there's tools, there's techniques. We can help you with those things. Apologizing without making it about you, so she actually receives it. We've got an incredible tool I'm going to give you from our Thrive program that's going to change the game when it comes to that. And really to get your own power back so that she wants to lean back in the marriage, so that she wants to be with you. That boot camp I'm launching next week. I believe our first day will be Friday of next week. I have limited spots. I'm not opening this up to everybody. This is a coaching with me, Mark, personally. This is not with somebody else, not another coach on our team or anything like this. First time I've ever done this specific program, but I'm extremely excited about what we're going to get out of it. And I'm extremely excited about the marriages we're going to save and how many guys' lives we're going to change because I want to see families stay together. I want to see kids stay with their parents. My hope is that your wife will see the changes and that your wife will go, hey, you know what? I want to be a part of what this man is doing. And I'm thankful for it. I'm thankful for those changes. You know, that's ultimately what we want to be able to do. Um, I've got more information about that. If you are interested in that, you can literally uh, message me personally. I think we can drop the m.me link as well. If you want to comment bootcamp on this post or message me personally, we can put the link in there. If my guy can drop that, and I will get back to you. I'll share with you the details, share with the investment, talk about it. Like I said, it's a 4-week program. This is going to be fast. There's going to be a lot of interaction. It's not going to be just coaching calls. There's going to be a lot of in between as well. There's going to be some work to do. If you're serious about saving your marriage, that's who this is for. This is for guys specifically who are like, man, I'm running out of time. She's going to move out soon, or we're looking at divorce papers, all these types of things. Now's the time. Stop fucking around. Start taking action. This is your time. The investment is more affordable than probably anything I've ever done before, especially from a coaching standpoint. Most guys can actually do this. And if you can't, we'll find a way to help you make it happen. Okay. So don't let finances stop you from saving your marriage. Obviously, if you're like completely broke, I'm going to tell you go get a fucking job. But like, let's do this together. Let's find a way to save your marriage using this model, using the techniques and tools we do. If you come to me, you're like, is it too late? Is it too late? Dude, I have no idea if it's too late. I don't know your wife. I don't know your situation. All I can tell you is that this is going to change your life. And the goal is to change your marriage's life, to reconnect, to create that new marriage with her. And that is the goal. That is what we're trying to do here. So if that's you and you're interested, I've got my link down there. You can just send me a message or you can comment bootcamp. The easiest, fastest way is just go ahead and send me a message. I check even my spam messages or whatever, so I'll see it. If you don't hear back from me, you'll probably hear back from me today. We already got guys signing up. I've got a cap on how many guys I'm letting in, and I think we're gonna hit that cap pretty quickly because I'm already talking about 15 to 20 guys right now. So we're gonna keep it probably smaller than that. So if you're in, or if you want to know more details, etc., hit me up and we'll talk about it. And if not, cool. Hopefully this was helpful for you. And that's all I got for you guys. See ya.